Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Stars, is a tough-as-nails on-rails shooter for the Nintendo Wii. However, it's more than that. It merges a bunch of different gameplay styles and mechanics together to create something greater than the sum of its individual parts. The game is clearly built with score attack sensibilities in mind. Developed by Treasure, of Gunstar Heroes and Ikaruga fame, that's some serious pedigree, as Treasure are often considered masters at creating arcade shooters. The player aims using Wii Remote pointer controls, which are highly responsive and vastly superior to the available conventional controller options. But unlike most on-rails shooters, the player also controls their characters around the screen and is in charge of positioning themselves and dodging attacks. The player isn't just an off-screen crosshair controller, but must also weave their way through enemy fire, which often reaches the extent found in bullet hell shooters. There's importance placed on positioning as well as aim, which gives the player more control over their actions, often being able to navigate the entire screen with the help of their hover backpack or board, respectively. In a sense, this is reminiscent of the Star Fox series, particularly Lylat Wars, or Star Fox 64 in other parts of the world. Also, there are many similarities to Kid Icarus Uprising and its flying sections, though this game released years before Uprising.
There's the fortress. You ready? Let's go! The Underworld army's attacking the town!
We must protect them.
Sin and Punishment features some generally good sound design, and the background music is upbeat and fun. It suits the style of the game well. The audio is noisy when the game is at its most intense, with lots of gunfire and explosion sound effects. The character dialogue is exceptionally corny at times, but it's corny in the best way, where you can have fun with how silly it all sounds.
Who was that guy?
One of the soldiers sent after me.
What do we do now?
Now we run like our lives depend on it. Because they do.
As such, the dialogue rarely grates, with the exception of some action-specific lines, which thoroughly outstay their welcome, such as when you use Issa's charge shot at every opportunity. The game has some pleasant visuals and very striking art direction. Environments are creatively constructed and are filled with detail, and the art has a colourful and slightly jagged style to it, which I personally like. Though this is clearly in part due to technical limitations of the Wii. The designs of the wildlife show some serious imagination as well, with some strange and just plain outrageous creatures and monsters on display.
What is this thing?
The plot revolves around two young adults, the boy Issa and the girl Kachi, who herself may or may not be human. The pair are attempting to escape from a group wanting to capture her. The player is in charge of controlling one of these two, and the other is mostly kept off-screen during gameplay. As the game goes on, more is revealed about the duo, and about those that are pursuing them. However, the game does a very poor job of explaining anything much beyond the most overt of narrative progression, and without the use of external sources, it's pretty easy to not understand everything that's going on. The plot is cheesy, and the cutscenes are often laughable, in part due to how some events are animated in them.
Okay then. I guess that's my ride.
All this trouble for two kids, I tell ya. Huh? There he is!
There are still interesting themes which get across the barrier of the convoluted plot, however, such as ideas like what truly makes someone human, and whether one can really move beyond past mistakes and improve themselves. However, in my opinion, the game doesn't place the importance on its story anyway, with plot progression being made primarily as excuses for interesting environments and gameplay opportunities during the game's 8 stages. And man, Treasure did a great job with those stages.
Finally, there's the entrance.
Each level is as interesting and unique as the last. One level has the duo rushing through an undersea tunnel system to reach the enemy base, and the next has them flying around a sky fortress in a segment that seems very similar to Kid Icarus Uprising's flying sections. By the final stage, the pair have travelled through a mysterious forest at night, across a vast highway in the desert, to Mount Fuji, and to space itself. Each level fits in so much action and there is never a dull moment. Those stages aren't that long themselves, they stand by the arcade tradition of increasing difficulty to make each stage last longer, as death is practically a given when first experiencing each set piece thrown at the player. In Successor of the Stars, the player has unlimited continues without any penalty, besides their score being reset. Outside of the spectacle of playing through the game once, the score chasing is the aspect which will keep players playing, and a reset score upon death is a fitting and appropriate approach to get players to challenge themselves throughout the game, especially with the inclusion of the online leaderboards. However, as the Wii's online servers were recently shut down, these online scores are inaccessible, which is a huge shame, as the appeal of inbuilt competition has some significant appeal. Players respawn at fairly frequent checkpoints, and this helps with the frustration of death, as it's not too far to get back to the point where the player failed before. Players are given all their health back upon respawn, which often places the player in a better position than before, again, with the exception of their now ruined score. It keeps the game approachable, but the pull of the score attack is strong. There are numerous small mechanics built into the game which add complexity and risk-reward systems into each level. For example, the player's score rises quicker while they are grounded and running along the floor, and when they decide to hover, this bonus stops. This means players are encouraged to remain on the horizontal axis and ignore all the vertical space around them. But this gives less room to avoid fire, and as a result, they risk more to get more score. But if they do get killed because of this, their entire score is destroyed. This establishes clear systems which give the player options based on how well they can play. The game also features a dodge ability. This dodge moves the player to whichever direction is held and has a hefty number of invincible frames. The dodge is way overpowered and you'll need to abuse this a ton as a result, but the stages do seem to be designed with that knowledge in mind. And besides, time spent dodging means time not spent shooting enemies for points, which again encourages aggression at the expense of safety, tying right back into the score attack nature of the game. Sin and Punishment: Successor of the Stars is a challenging game, and that will definitely turn off some people. For those that stick around though, they'll get to experience an exhilarating arcadey shooter with some masterful design decisions. The story of the game is underwhelming, but in terms of pure gameplay, this is one of the Wii's standout experiences, with exciting and impressive set pieces and a great sense of style. And for those that enjoy striving to be the best, the high score chasing will prove to be a thoroughly rewarding experience, full as it is of complexity and tense moments. Sin and Punishment 2 is a game and a challenge worth facing.